Introducing Mary Elizabeth Garrison. Mary is part of a multi-million-dollar sales training and coaching division of the 155-year-old Southwestern Company. Her division also holds sales training conferences in all the United States themed Success Starts Now. Mary's a mother of two. She has her bachelor's degree from Belmont University with nearly 30 years of experience in training and development. She has run her own training business and recruited and trained numerous sales teams. She has written various articles including How Much Do We Really Need? Help me give a warm welcome to Mary Garrison.
Well, thank you, John, and you did a good job. It's exactly how I wrote it. All right, so each of you should have this handout that's in front of you. What I'd like for you to notice to start with there is the triangle on the front cover. We believe that a picture tells 1,000 words, and in this triangle, what you see at the top there is you see the label process. Process is technique. It's learning techniques, for example, on how to ask for the business. It's knowing how to qualify your prospects so that you know that you are matching up your service, your product with the right candidate. Now, what you see in the lower right corner where you see self-motivation, that's where, again, you're motivated to actually use the techniques each and every day. And we all have met people that are motivated, but they may not know much technique. And if you know a lot of technique, but you're not motivated to use it, it's not going to help you so much. Frank Rohn out of Washington State, Rags to Riches. Are you familiar with Frank? One of the things he used to say, he used to ask the question that if you take an idiot and you motivate him, what do you have?
A motivated idiot.
A motivated idiot, exactly. So again, we all know people like that. We're not asking for anybody to point out anybody at all in this room, but it's important to know technique, and it's important to be motivated as well. And then you see in the lower left corner where it says self-management, that's knowing how to work your market, that's time management, that's scheduling. And we believe in order to be a top producer in your field, it takes understanding technique, it takes knowing how to keep yourself motivated, and it also involves managing yourself. In the course center, you see habits. The idea is that you become unconsciously confident, that what you do becomes automatic to where you don't have to think about it anymore. And so that's what we focus on within our training curriculum. If you look inside this cover here, what you see on the right side, you see the acronym CLASP, C-L-A-S-P. It is an acronym, and it's a technique, it's a strategy that we use to qualify people. And what I want to suggest is that you use this technique within the first 5 minutes of meeting a potential prospect. It's a way for you to, in some industries, it's referred to as fact-finding. It's a way for you to find out what the needs are so that you can tailor your presentation to meet the needs of that particular prospect. So what I'm suggesting is that what CLASP represents is a series of questions that you ask in order to better serve and to be able to help your prospect make their buying decision. What the C stands for, and again, the whole idea behind the acronym CLASP, it's like a clasp on a necklace or a bracelet. It's a loose fit, meaning that you could take it off if you wanted to. So the idea is that you get a loose commitment to move forward with your product or your service before you launch into your presentation. A lot of average producers believe that the actual sell is made during the presentation. What I'm going to suggest is that it happens during the introduction, during the time that you're qualifying your candidates. So what you see for C there stands for who are you currently working with? You know, so like for example, for those of you that are in the insurance business, oftentimes you're going to have people that are going to inquire on your cost and what you have to offer. They're just getting quotes. You ever talk to someone and you get the impression that's exactly what they're wanting? It's just a quote. So to ask them, so how many quotes have you received so far? That's going to tell you a whole lot, isn't it? And in other words, you're not asking if they're talking to somebody else. You're just asking them as though you assume that they are talking with other people and getting quotes. And that should hopefully engage them in a conversation to provide you additional information. The idea is to be conversational. So you want to find out who they're currently working with. What have they looked at so far? And that can tell you a whole lot about how to sell or how to tailor your presentation. Now, what the L stands for, I bet you can imagine. What do you like about what you're currently working with or what you've looked at so far? And a lot of, again, average producers, because in this business we do have the opportunity to shadow, to go along with different sales representatives from all different industries, and oftentimes this question is not asked. And reasons vary that are given when I ask certain sales reps why they do not ask more about their competitor. One of the common responses is that they don't want to sell their competitor. They're afraid that they may like who they've looked at already and that talk themselves out of the business. But it tells us a whole lot. And the third question is, what would you alter or change about what you're currently working with or what you're looking at? Now, if you start out with that type of question, you're going to hear a lot of, oh, it's fine, it's okay. Ever hear that? But if you already have them engaged, if you have that rapport going, if they're already conversational in that you're getting them talking about what they like about what they've looked at, what they're working with, I mean, they wouldn't be talking to you if there wasn't a possibility that they're looking for some other type of service available. So again, the idea is get them conversational, get them talking, and you can learn so much if that's the case. Now, what the S stands for is, are they the signer? Are they the decision maker? And there's so many different ways that we can ask this question. When you made your decision before on your last house, for example, if you're a realtor, who else was involved in that decision? Because oftentimes there's parents that may be involved, there's older siblings that may be involved. They may have a relative that's in the business. That would be very helpful for you to know. Wouldn't you agree? All right, so there's ways, again, to ask that question. One of the worst ways to ask is, are you the decision maker? Again, depending on the context, as you heard in the introduction, my background's training and development. So in a lot of cases, with organizations, especially the larger corporations, I'm dealing with an HR representative. And then they have to, of course, get the final decision being made from the C-level executives, from chief operating officer to the chief executive officer, financial officers. And so oftentimes the person I'm speaking to is not the one to actually make that decision. But if I just start out, and I will tell you, when I first started the business, oftentimes I would ask, are you the one that's going to make this decision? And the last thing you want to do is make them defensive, because you can almost see the little hairs on the back of their neck rise up, and they're like, you're going through me. So, to say something like, if you already have done your homework, what we call pre-approach information. For example, you can find all kinds of information about a prospect before you meet with them using what tool that's available to all of us. What tool do we have?
Brain.
What's that?
Our brain.
Our brain, yes. But what tool could I look at to find information out about you before I met you today?
Oh, internet.
Internet, exactly. It's a free tool, pre-approach information. You go to Facebook, even if they're not quote-unquote your friend, a lot of times it shows what organizations they're associated with. That pre-approach information can be very helpful. So any company, if you are doing business to business, any company, you can find tons of information out about their chief executive officers. And so in that particular case, if I know that Frank Smith is the CEO, I could say, if I'm talking to Rebecca Little, who's the HR manager, I could say, Rebecca, you told me what you like about your current training program. Do you think Frank would have other ideas about what you all would be looking at, or what he'd like to see change about your current program? And so I'm making an assumption there. I'm making an assumption that bringing Frank up, and then oftentimes you might say something like, well, yes, it's pretty much that way. Oh, so do you think there would be something else that he might want to add that he'd like to see in addition to that? Well, I don't know. Let me go ask him. Or do you think Frank would like to come in here and talk with us to see if there's something else that he'd like to add about it? But do you see how by doing that I'm involving another decision maker without raising defenses? So there's so many different ways of doing that. Now, what the P in class stands for is paint the picture. We think in terms of pictures. For example, right now, if I were to say blueberry muffin, okay, I doubt any one of you in here is thinking, okay, BLUEBERRYMUFFIN. You're probably either thinking about a blueberry, that you like it, or you might be thinking about what you ate for breakfast, but you're seeing some type of a picture in your mind. We do. We think in terms of pictures. So right now, you have information that you were able to get within just a few minutes of conversation to paint a picture. For example, Rebecca, you know, I appreciate what you told me, and if I was able to show you how we could provide for you, and I feed back what Rebecca says she likes about their current training program or what she likes about what she's already researched, and if we could also provide, and then I feed back what Rebecca may have told me that she'd like to see changed or added to what she's seen available, would you be willing to give us an opportunity to work with you? And what I'm doing right there is as I'm finding out if this is truly a prospect in a conversational, non-defensive way, that's also going to help me with my presentation. So often we learn so much information about our product and service, and the longer we're in the business, the more information we know. And what we have to be careful about doing is not just throwing out all this information hoping that something hits and something triggers to get our prospect excited and wanting to do business with us. For one, attention span becomes lower, but if you're able to listen and be attentive, then you can tailor your presentation so you don't spend hours with someone only to find out that they're not truly a prospect. So it'll be very helpful. So how many of you prospect over the phone? Maybe your goal on the phone is to schedule an appointment. Maybe it is to be able to submit a quote, depending on what your business may be. But how many of you spend time on the phone cold calling or following up on warm leads that you've received? All right. What we see often, if we're looking at a contact management program, under the notes, we'll see left message, left message, left message over months in some cases. And so often that happens. How many of you, when you call, get voicemail? All right, so I'm going to share with you some techniques that we use at Southwestern that help us to reach our decision makers over the phone, because even though it feels like we're working when we're just dialing and leaving messages, for those of you who do get voicemail, how many of you do leave messages? All right, so out of the messages you leave, let's say out of 10 messages that you left in a day, how many of those return your call? Would you say 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10? It's a lower number, isn't it? All right, and there are times where we are left no other option other than to leave a message, and there are ways to leave a message without giving too much information away, to where you do have the opportunity to have a conversation without the buying decision being made just off the message that you left, which oftentimes is the reason why we don't have a return call. But what I'm going to suggest is that when you are calling on prospects over the phone, and let's say I call in and I'm calling a business, and the business says, oh, I call in and I say, I need to speak with John Nelson, and then I'm sent to a voicemail. What I tend to do, if it's the first time that I've tried to reach John, I may leave a message, but more often than not, what I'll do is I'll press 0 to go back to the operator of the switchboard. And I'll say, hello, I just called a moment ago to speak with John, and I appreciate the fact that you put me into his voicemail. But I was wondering, is he in today? Because I didn't want to set us up to where we're playing phone tag. I didn't want to do that to him. So is he in today? Well, yes, he's somewhere around here. Okay, well, do you all have an intercom system? Is there any way you could page him? No, we don't have anything like that. Well, is there someone that sits next to John that might be able to let me know if he's about? So let's say I go back. There's different scenarios with this, but let's say they send me to Jane, who sits next to John, and I get Jane's voicemail. So I'm